sort of in the industry realm. But it traverses the consumer, right? Like I say, here's a consumer, he wants help on his cappuccino machine, or here's a healthcare application where even a simple doctor visit might not just be an audio video. Now, hey, I can show you, okay, well, this is what my bruise looks like, or this is what my foot swelling looks like, or what have you know, any kind of those type of things can be done in the healthcare sector as well. So, immersive education, field workforce expertise, remote healthcare. I think I mentioned hospitality and travel experience, where people are roaming around somewhere and then they go and talk to a virtual assistant, and the virtual assistant will be able to go and overlay in real time based on the fee that they're receiving. And this is an application somebody can go and build, and they can build this application pretty quickly and easily now. So when we talk about programmable applications from a communications perspective, AI perspective, I think about the earlier diagram that I showed you with a bunch of block diagrams, right? A whole bunch of it was around basic communication stuff. There's a whole bunch of native pipeline I was showing you, or if they want to go and write a more they have full access to the API and SDK, whether building a web app or a library. And if they didn't have this thing, they'd have to go and build and acquire an AI model, let alone how are they going to do a decode of the video frames that are coming in, and every drop pull, and you pull in the library. So model creation is one. Video analytics, computer vision, also this working for a while. It's not new to us, but we commercially launched it earlier this year, and thanks to Alan and team, we participated in the global TAD hack, and 23 that were done based on the various Engage Digital platform. There were winners. But nonetheless, yeah, so 6 winners announced. If you go down to engagedigital.ai TAD hack, I think you probably were built over the weekend, and actually maybe even try them out. Definitely more than welcome.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Adnan. So you can take questions, and Felipe, if you can get yourself set up, please. Any questions?
So for the AI part, you mentioned a lot of different AI models. So do you have your own stack for each of those, or do you use providers? Or
yeah, good question.
What's under the hood?
Right, so we're trying not to constrain ourselves in terms of the type of models that are available. So there are things, as you know, in the open source domain called OpenZoo. So you can take OpenZoo models, but with those you may or may not get the level of accuracy and performance perhaps, but we'll make it available. But if somebody comes and says, okay, we need a tuned model that is very highly accurate, but it's a little different than what's available in the open source community or to our partners like to Intel and to NVIDIA and some other partners, we will go in and tune a specific model for a very specific custom use case. But we don't try and constrain the type of model. I mean, I think they have to be, of course, based on TensorFlow or PyTorch. There's a certain types of model. All right, thank you very much.
So we can see your favorite band.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my mouse. So good morning, and yeah, thank you. It's really nice being here. For those who don't know, I'm Philippe Leton, sales engineer at RingCentral as part of the GSP, that's the Global Service Providers division. It's really special for me to be here because very few actually called. They didn't want to believe in me. They told me, I'm from Manchester, I don't need that. But yeah, here we go. So what is RingCentral doing about it, and how is that actually lifting all efforts there? I would morning for good reasons, for bad reasons, depending on how you see it. But also just a very brief overview of who's not all of you might be familiar with the company. This is our motto: deliver simple communication through our connected experience platform. We do it. So sorry, I had to put the slide here. That's how we got the sponsorship here. But then we slowly developed more features and became what we are today. More important than all of the other capabilities that you see here on the board as well. All that can be exposed through programmable telecom. What are the benefits that we can bring out of that? There is a new word out of there, so we are now in a from everywhere, and also that also brings challenges, right? So we still need to act upon that if some trigger or alarm comes up. So there is a new paradigm and new challenges that we need to be aware of. And of course, there are new with the security standards. That changes dramatically the way the network is being used today. It's putting a huge pressure on the network. I don't need to tell you that, but it also changed the way people approach and expect to use applications. And there was an interesting survey here where people now in the UK actually have bigger expectations than they used to have pre-COVID. Like keeping the meeting running or the video conference running while they're in the subway or using trains. So people's expectations change in the way they expect to be using those applications, and there is also a change in the demographics as well. My mother uses more Facebook than I do, like 10 times more. E-commerce was booming during COVID, and it still is, because there were a lot of companies that started doing e-commerce because of COVID, and they didn't stop doing it. And of course, if you do e-commerce, you also need to take care of customer support and so on and so on. So there is a new challenge out there that didn't exist before COVID, and now we need to tackle it. And finally, there is a change in the way applications are being used. There is an expectation that more and more contextualized communications are happening, whether you're talking to bots or real people. And not all platforms out there are actually ready for that. So we believe, based on all this, we believe there is still a huge opportunity for cloud communications, despite the economic climate that we feel. I mean, you mentioned previously, I mean, stocks are shit. That's the technical word for it, for everyone. But we truly believe that's a temporary thing to happen, because if you look, and it's not as you said, it's a Kabel study that says that big markets like Germany, they still observe around 30% of cloud computing in that market. So there is still something between 60 to 70% of growth in those big markets. And I'm just only mentioning, and because of all that, we still believe that there is still in the past couple of years, and your presentation in the beginning was fantastic, because it just gave the motto for that first point over there. There is a lot that ended up having, CPaaS companies operating in CCaaS, becoming CPaaS companies, UCaaS is operating. There are no niche solutions, and there's really few solutions that actually operate in a specific niche anymore. And then everyone is using the same channels. It's voice, it's video, it's messaging, and offering the same channels. You go to any company, you go to the portfolio that everyone is doing for the growth predictions, and if you go to, I would risk saying, is it then a pricing discussion and features discussion in the end, like Joao was mentioning? We don't believe it. So based on all this, we changed an approach, and we starting bringing the focus back to solving problems. People have needs, people have issues, companies have issues and workflows that need to be sorted out, and we don't think to solve those needs. It's the way to go. So we brought the focus back to solving those people's workflows, and we set the motto that we wanted to help somehow increasing productivity and low-code solutions. And we put that at RingCentral, we put that at the same level as the UCaaS, as the traditional UCaaS and CCaaS solutions that you would also find as part of the portfolio. So we brought programmable telecom to the table, and we think it's important enough to be to be at the same level as the other solutions we have. And of course, that means that we're also investing as much as the other solutions as well. This is just a summary of the developer tools that we have, the public developer tools that we have. You would see that we have the traditional user-to-user or customer-to-service communication tools, offering messaging communication, video communication APIs, voice APIs as well, business as usual. But where we think that it's really, really important to differentiate is also what we do in the backend, how we can integrate with what APIs we offer to integrate in the backend of our customers and partners to be deeply integrated into those workflows, and also in their own workflow systems, workflow manager and orchestration management features as well, systems as well. There is a set of APIs that you will not see here because they are exclusive to partners as well, but this is not the only thing we have for in terms of programmable telecode. There is a bunch of APIs that are not public because they are exclusive for our partners and customers, so you will not see them in the public portal. But if you want to see what other APIs we also offer, you can also follow that link over there. APIs open door to collaboration. It was pretty obvious for us, and because of that, we created two, not divisions, but I would say two projects at Ring Central. One is called Global Service Providers, where we look at partnering with network operators and how we can complement to each other, and also multi-sided partners, trying to fill Ring Central feature gaps by bringing what others are doing best in their field and not try to reinvent the wheel when we solve people's problems. So, and again, the focus is really solving people's problems. And if you look at how is way to solve people's problems, you need to have the best framework, but also the solution set to solve that problem. It doesn't really matter if you try to convince that person that your solution is great and will solve everything, if in fact it doesn't. So these two projects essentially are here to partner and to listen to people to complement the gaps that we cannot do ourselves. So at GSP, Alan already mentioned this project was launched a year ago. At GSP, we launched a project called RISE. With RISE, we are working with network operators so they can share resources from the two companies that are partnering. We have co-innovation activities. So it's not only about a reseller problem differently and what solutions do we need to develop next to approach a specific need in that market. How can we integrate systems in the end to create a new experience that will solve our customers' problems? It's about putting people back at the center of this equation. Central as a cloud communications facilitator, and we would have the network operator on top filling that network track and maybe more than what it is. It's not only about technology either. If you think about it, most of them just make sense. It's just stupid to think that we will have the solution that would cope every customer's needs. So there will always be a specific need that we will not be able to do, and for that, what we want to do here is to bring. We'll solve all our customer needs. There is an app gallery that you can actually follow where you'll see examples of many companies that are already partnering with us in that sense and develop their own solutions to do it as well, integrating it with us. There's just a few examples of some of the companies that are already working as part of this project. And again, you will find here specific solutions that go to regulated communications, to advanced call recordings, etc. So we actually do some of the stuff they actually do as well, but we know that for very, very specific needs, a customer will have. So you'll also find partners that also just operating at regulated markets. So they just came in to complement that gap, but you will also see. And the APIs are really simple to use, so they are not really complex. The proof is I by no means I'm a skilled developer. So the solution I found essentially was to integrate my RingCentral application with my just interacts with the lamps to switch the lamps from white to red every time I'm on a. It was a fun build. You can actually find it on my GitHub page, and there is actually a video that you can, a YouTube video that you can. For a feature-rich conversation, as I mentioned. So what we really want is where we try to solve people's problems, and we can only do that by creating an ecosystem of innovators and companies like the ones here in this room. So we are here to listen. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So, any questions for Felipe? If you could move over to the side. So Andreas, if you could come on down and get yourself set up. We have the additional power supply, so if you need it. That was excellent. Thank you so much.
No questions then? Well, we'll see it again.
So let's start bringing in the food. Tummy's rumbling, it'll be satisfied soon. And then after Andreas, we'll take a break. We'll get the streaming issue sorted. It's just network connectivity as always. So if anybody's complaining online about how awful the video is, yes, I know, I can see it. Okay, but hopefully we can get that sorted. And anyway, it's all recorded here, so after the fact, people who can't be physically here, they can get it later.
Takes a while to figure out the basics.
I know. There you go. You just
We've heard a lot about telecom programming from telcos, and today I will tell you testing of this programming with telcos, because you know we used to be obsessive about testing in the telco 4 years ago, but we're not anymore. Actually, we suck at testing nowadays, right? And deep dive first into like in a general way why we are actually testing, and then we'll go approaches on how we, which nowadays thanks to Alan's awesome survey is the #1 media relay in the open source world. Code contributions, I have co-founded a company in the past where we built back then in order to help us to develop telecom systems and to operate telecom systems. So testing and monitoring, right? So why do we test? Why do we monitor? Is there a difference? Is it the same? In my opinion, it's actually two sides of the same coin, right? So from it to not, deploy some regressions, and if something goes wrong, you stop, right? Whereas with monitoring, it's more like you run it 24/7 all the time, and if something goes wrong, then you start something. You start workflows. You start alerting. You start your troubleshooting workflows. And I will show you some examples of how we are approaching this and which kind of tools we are using. if we as technicians look at that, then we always think like, yeah, well, it's to check if the correct call flows are being signaled, if we get the right response codes for our SIP calls, if we are within certain thresholds with our RTP streams. But actually, and that's my experience from the last 20 years, it's more like about us as people being just more comfortable when working, right? Because when I, as a developer, was doing like night shifts as an operator at 3 in the morning, rolling out new software, I was like very deep into it, and at 4 or 5 actually worked. Yeah? So the last thing I really wanted to do is, grab an Excel sheet, have like my 20, 30 phone, and do like all the test calls by myself. And then figuring out in the end of the morning, my boss was calling me out of bed saying, hey, the thing you did in the night, it's actually completely screwing up our customers. So doing the work in the night. I want to get a report in the end where it just says, okay, everything works, or I tell them, hey, stop, roll back, right? Also, if something goes wrong, then I actually know, in particular, where to focus my efforts on when we do our replanning of our and very important, saying, hey, this and this and these things don't work, we get tons of tickets, it's happening, and you don't have any answers. Probably your boss just told you that something is wrong, you didn't know before, right? And that is actually something that you really want to avoid. So, what we actually want to do with this testing and the monitoring is we want to get back in control. Eventually, we want to know whether RTP is fine and whether SIP is fine. But the actual goal is that I can just do my job and know when something, like with the story of me at 4 in the morning doing my upgrade, and the same with the product manager, right? He gets the report, she gets the report saying, hey, we're not going to risk that, roll back. This kind of uncertainty all the time. So is it really working? I know of people running companies that from time to time pick up the phone and try to do a call, just checking if everything is good, right? And you just don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to know when everything is fine. It's this customer segment or this feature that doesn't work, and then I can get back in control, and then I can say, hey, guys, you're going to look at this. So how do we get in this kind of control state? From my point of view, it's just 3 simple steps, and a lot from it's common sense, right? We all know it. We just need to do it. And what we need to do is establish passive monitoring. I guess a lot of you guys already have that in place, right? It's just tapping all the calls that are out there, just checking what's going on. If something goes wrong, I can look into that. Active monitoring, just doing synthetic tests all the time, day in, day out, just that they can create and reproduce tests as well. Or as a developer, just saying, okay, I'm looking at passive monitoring in particular as a first pillar of that. There are fantastic. There's SIP-free. Because when something really goes wrong in that kind of cost scenarios, operator, and it was like still the early days of SIP, and I was developing things, developing features, and I was acting as sometimes issues got escalated, first level, second level, and then it was like me and this is like going on. And as particularly as a young technician, it's pretty awkward, right, to call your customers. It's really about as I said, for instance, you as an operations manager, you just want to know day in, day out if things work. Complex scenarios out there, and you just want to know if they work because you have like tons of components. When we do our testing, we have like, I don't know, and in order to do our active testing, we leverage a lot of open source tools. They are fantastic tools. Get into that in a second. We use PeerSIP, a command line VoIP client that you buy Kamailio, or you could use OpenSIPs as well, and RTP engine, because you change things, you can actually tap statistics, you can do all kind of weird things with that in order to get information out test clients, right? So you don't have to implement your own client by yourself if, for instance, PeerSIP or CP doesn't support a particular test feature that you need, like adding specific headers. just put it in your Camellio config. I don't know how many browser windows I tried to have open to test the call from A to B, but you know, you only could grab one camera, so I had 2 laptops or 3, and you know, all kind of different webcams, and it was crazy. But what you can do instead is you can actually automate it, because there's headless Chrome out there. You can control headless Chrome with Puppeteer, yeah, and write your Selenium scripts where you just say in JavaScript, hey, go at this particular website of mine, yeah, click this login button, put in the credentials, say login or join the conference or whatever the use case is, right? And you go to the conference, and you can use Chrome, from this Chrome internals, you can collect all this kind of metric information that you have when you manually go to Chrome internals. And then you can just pull it out and, you know, deliver it to your backend system and then aggregate it and work with it and check if it works. Yeah? So there's a lot of tools out there you can just use. Yeah. And the funny thing is, all these tools, they can be remote controlled. You don't have to do this, you know, manually, because, as I said, in the middle of the night, you don't want to do it manually. You just want to punch a button and say, hey, test it, and when I'm back with my coffee, I want to have a green or a red light. So, BearZip, for instance, it offers MQTT and HTTP. You can just remote control it, right? And you can program it. You can send it a curl command to do something. Yeah? ZipP offers UDP. Yeah? You just say, do a call, increase the call rate by 10, whatever. Yeah? Appium, for instance, for Android emulators in order to test your web applications. Yeah? It offers a Selenium WebDriver. You can just pull in your Selenium script saying, hey, load this particular application, yeah? Go to the dial pad, punch one, yeah? And actually, like with a bit of a hacker mind, pretty interesting. Yeah? And what you might not know is Camellio, RDP engine, they also offer MQTT. You can just in raw do your you need a little bit of plumbing in order to get this kind of pipe. This is the list of users I want to put in. The call should take like 30 seconds, and the test is okay if you go through particular call states like, okay, it registers, and the call got established, and you got two-way audio, an IoT core pipeline for that, which is actually pretty nice, because it's very lightweight, it's actually cheap to operate, yeah? And it can handle like a session border controller if you want, right? Call goes out, system on a test. It also controls RTP engine. We actually pull all the metrics. We say, okay, how many lost packets per second do we have? How many bytes per second do we send? In order even to test, for instance, like, you know, how does the bandwidth change? Which is pretty important if you have questions in, for instance, in development or in web engineering in general, or your boss wants answers from you. You know, our customers are switching from PCMA to Opus for our network planning. Yeah? Do we know exactly which kind of bandwidth we have? You really simply, very easily, a lot of very complex call flows in like a couple of days. Yeah? You could even, from there, you know, you put it in some data lakes and apply some trigger with a Lambda function, pushing it to, I don't know, third-party applications to do more analysis on that. Yeah? But so we just, you know, we write it to Postgres in the middle, like results and metrics. We write it to ClickHouse and Loki and whatever database in terms of metrics, logs, states, you know. There are a lot of tools out there that you can use. And then in the row of numbers, I'm not that autistic that I can actually make something out of that. A little bit, but... The third thing is ad hoc testing. And that's a bit special because I said ZipP, awesome tool, 20 years old, we are using that extensively. Good thing, or is it a bad, it has 150 command line options. Yeah, I counted them. After a day with these tools, you just forget about them. What you also need to do is you need to So, after thinking that I fixed the issue, I said, hey, could you please try it again? We fixed it. She tried it again, said, still doesn't work. No. It gets even more awkward if you try it, or if you call again and again, right? It takes you 3 or 4 times. So what you run, press this button, and I'm not expecting you to do this either. So what we are using at ZipFront is a ZipP scenario generator. And I'm going to try to do a live demo. Yeah, there it is. Very simple web application that we use of the scenario. Or if you're a developer wanting to reproduce, for instance, an actual core scenario where you took your phones, you did the core manually, ran the trace, you have a backup of this file, and then just load this into 2,600 records in there. I found 4 cores. One seems to be a register that didn't work. Maybe I want to see like a pretty okayish looking invite in there, like a core, an option. Oh, that doesn't. I see some 180, some 200, and you can actually start playing a bit with this. So, oh, the one manipulating that on the UI, get your kind of verified zip scenario out, and you have like your finished XML. So this is basically how we try to work with this. Yeah. So this is nice, but how does it help us doing, programmable testing? And I was promising some curl commands in the agenda. So in the end, how that would work in our case is, for instance, if you are Twilio or user of Twilio, and you know how to, with the API, how to generate a core, what you would do is curl to generate your core. It would route to the zip endpoint that actually is being used here. And we would measure, okay, did the core come in? Did it run through certain core steps? Did the RTP get established? What was the RTP quality? What was the bandwidth? All this kind of. Did it actually run through all the particular states that we were expecting, like ringing, established, all these kind of things? And once it's done, it will do a webhook into your system of choice. This is a bit difficult, so you want to have some kind of asynchronous way of handling this. And then it will post to your web URL saying, this test was good, or this test failed. And that's essentially it, right? It could get even more easy. You just do a call from A to B, and it will do exactly the same without having, a certain thing. This is what you would use, just a pipeline, and I changed my core. The best case scenario would really be that when you, leave this talk, that you sit back, think a bit, okay, how do we actually handle things that we could change? Yeah, I'm here with my colleagues to talk to you. Maybe we can help you, optimizing your CP and whatever workflows you have, right? Or if you need a fresh start, we're open to, talk to you as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Andreas. Please, Patricia, bring the food.
Yeah.
Okay, so any questions, just ask Andreas over lunch, and the food's being brought in.
I guess we have enough sandwiches, fruits, and some sweets. So I think we have more.
Test some
Yes. Can I do? And then can I put that?
Yeah.
Thank you.